We're here with Chuck Barfoot from Barfoot Snowboards, and Chuck, welcome to Park City.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Now tell us about 20 years in the snowboard business, and you've got the 20th anniversary board right here. Tell us about it.
Okay, well this year is our, it's a special year for us. I started building boards actually real close to here. My first boards were built in 1978, and my first time riding was actually at Entry 3 over by between Snowbird and Alta. And so anyway, I always come back to Utah. There's always great snow here.
Special place in your heart because of that first ride, right?
Always a special place in my heart.
Now, I want to hear about the beginnings because it's quite an amazing story. I know you have a history of surfing actually that started this whole thing, right?
Yeah. I've been in sports my whole life. I started surfing in 1961. I'm originally from New Jersey and moved out to California in 1970. And I've been involved with skateboards, and of course I still surf. I'm 46 years old now and I'm still surfing. I live right on the beach. So I snowboard during the winter time, I surf the rest of the year, I still skateboard a little bit. But what got me into this was just being a surfer. When we started making snowboards, there was only a couple people making any boards whatsoever. The best board out at the time was the Winter Stick by Dmitry Miklovich, who's from this area. Actually, he's from New Jersey also.
Really?
And so is Sims, and Burton's from Vermont. So most of the guys who started this industry are from the East Coast, but they all moved out west, which is kind of a unique deal. But anyway, I was working at Sims making skateboards for some of the top pros in the world. And a fellow by the name of Bob Weber came to Sims with a yellow plastic, kind of a toy board with a skateboard deck on the top of it, and wanted Sims to license the name. So they did that, and then I looked at that, and I hadn't snowboarded yet, and I kind of rigged up a binding system with a rubber strap on it. And Tom asked me to start making some fiberglass boards, and since I made surfboards and worked with fiberglass and stuff like that, he let me cut loose on that. So I started making a board in the summer of 1978 for Tom. It was his own shape. Halfway through that, I said, you know, I got to do my own designs on this thing. I can make a more functional board. So I came up with a design, taught myself how to make my own molds, and made these solid fiberglass snowboards with all the contours in them. Every one of them was unique. But what was really weird is when I went and tested my first board over by Snowbird, I realized that I had never even snowboarded before.
That's amazing. And from what I hear, it was a pretty good first run.
Yeah, and what was weird, we were showing pictures of, I was standing there and I'm like all stoked and everything.
I saw that.
You saw the picture?
It was great.
Yeah, it's hysterical. And I looked and I went, holy moly, it was my first toe turn and my first heel turn ever. And I designed a board without even having ever ridden before, and it worked great and been just hooked ever since.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned all the guys coming out from back east. Did it really start taking off bigger and better in the west to begin with?
Well, the origination of it was more from the East Coast. Sherman Poppin in 1962 designed a board called the Snurfer in Michigan. And what's really funny about that is in 1962, during the summer, I went to Michigan, one of the only times I've ever gone to Michigan. My cousin lives out there, and we rode a Snurfer on the sand. And then I hadn't even stuck my foot on anything until 1978. So years had passed, but that's where it originated from. Burton was doing basically a copy of the Snurfer, and so was a company called Flight out of Rhode Island, and the fellow's name was Stevie DeRaa, and that was 1977.
Wow.
So
Come a long way since then.
it's become a real one.
And since those early days, are you surprised with how much snowboarding has taken off, especially the past few years?
Absolutely. I mean, to see mountains, figure when we started, you weren't allowed to even ride on a mountain. It took us 4 or 5 years before we started to be allowed to, around 81, 82. Now, I mean, 40 to 60% of any mountain on any given day is snowboarders, which is incredible. So I never expected it.
Okay, let's talk about the difference in the attitude over the past few years and the tolerance that skiers have so much more for snowboarders, and so many are trying out snowboarding more and more.
Well, like I said, the very beginning of snowboarding, most of the people who rode were skateboarders, and they were more rebellious. And that has changed over the course of the years. I mean, my company, for instance, I have friends of mine who ski. We snowboard and ski and we get on the same chairlift and we have a great time. It's not like there's a difference. It's just we ride differently. Back then, skiers were giving up ground because there were no snowboarders, and all of a sudden they had to put up with people who were going across the hill more. There were just little things that people had to learn to kind of give a little bit. We've all been schooled enough now that we're all out here to have fun. And I mean, I love snowboarding with skiers, and I always get a kick out of somebody who has an attitude towards me, because I just, you know, I'll just laugh and just go, oh, I like skiers, sorry.
And rip right on by, yeah.
And just make sure they see a couple of good runs, you know, and that's it, and see ya.
But you definitely encourage everyone to get out there and try a snowboard, right?
Most people, yeah. I mean, unless you have some kind of an injury or something that doesn't allow you, but other than that, snowboarding's a blast. It's a little harder to learn than skiing. The learning scale for skiing is like first day, you've got it pretty together. You can get down the hill on skis. It's pretty easy. By the end of the week, you really haven't learned much. Snowboarding, it's hard the first day. You usually get some bumps and bruises. I recommend lessons.
A little padding in the behind, maybe, right?
An extra padding in the behind. But by the end of the week, if you've stuck with it, you're actually riding pretty decently. And it's just a matter of time. You put more time in, you get better.
And from what I hear, those powder runs make it all worthwhile, right?
And if you get the ride powder, there's nothing better.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, now back to the 20 years here and the anniversary board. Tell us what this means. I know there's a special little symbolism there at the bottom of the board.
Okay, well, this was a graphic brought up by a friend of mine. Of course, it's our 20th year anniversary. We wanted to celebrate it, and I asked my artist friend to come up with something that he thought would be special. So he kind of made my logo, which is a claw coming out of a pool of gold. And then we put the 20th anniversary, and it's also a collector's edition. So what I'm doing this year is I make every single model of board we make. You can get this graphic on it if you happen to want one of them. And then the bottom's got a nice,
All
I don't know
right.
if you can see that real well, but
Beautiful.
yeah, it's a very, very, very nice board.
All right, well, a very exciting 20 years, and what do you have planned for the next 20?
Hopefully be riding my behind off like I'm still doing and staying healthy and just having, you know, our company move along. I'm enjoying doing something that I love for a living. And, you know, I don't think you could ask for anything more. You know, we're living a lifestyle, and it's paying the rent. That's the nice thing, you know.
Beautiful thing, and enjoying the beautiful outdoors like here today.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Chuck, and we wish you the best of luck.
My pleasure.
I'm Jillian Cahill for Park City Television.